Hey, Paul Mack here. Got another question from a viewer. This one from Captain Howard. He asked, "Hey, Paul Mack, could you tell us how you built nesting boxes for your chickens? Thanks." Well, basically, Captain Howard, my own general preferences for a chicken nest is 12 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch deep. That's basically a box. What could be easier than building a box? But I have found that that's generally a good size for most any size hen, whether it be a large hen, surely a small hen, but they can fit in that box and move around very easily, lay their eggs, and get on out. However, for a flock of hens, you're probably going to need more than one nest just so that when one hen is on the nest, other hens aren't tempted to want to lay somewhere on the floor, under the roost, which can get messy. So I've found that for a flock of about 20 to 30 hens, 4 to 6 nests seem to be plenty. They're generally going to want to lay in the same nest all the time. If they see one egg in there, that's generally where they're going to want to lay. But 4 to 6 nests are plenty for a sizable small farm flock. And a series of nests is even easier to build than several individual nests. Now, for instance, if you need 6 nests, you can build 6 in a row, just 12 inches high, 6 foot long, or you can build them 2-story high. You can build 3 nests here and then 3 nests on top. Now, I call the nest a box, but obviously it's not completely enclosed. One side is open so that the hen can enter and exit. And on that open side, I do like to put a partition that's maybe halfway, give or take. And it can be a little higher than halfway. Hens, are pretty agile. They can fit into cozy little spots. The idea of the partition, it keeps, obviously, the eggs from falling out, because when you go to put straw in there, I like to use pine straw. When you put straw in there, you don't want the straw so high that it falls over the partition. So you want it high enough that the eggs stay in the nest where they belong. Now, if you position that unit of nest up against the wall, which traditionally most nests are, positioned up against the wall of the chicken house, that eliminates the need for boards in the back so that you don't have to waste any more lumber than you have to. Particularly if your chicken house wall is made of, for instance, rough cut planks installed vertical or horizontal. However, it's easier to fit that up against a flat wall. My log chicken house obviously has logs. I fit it up there anyway, and there are spaces. There's not enough space for the chicken to get out the back. Now, rather than having a flat top, I like to have a slanted top. Now, you can go ahead and build your flat top and just add a slanted board to the top. The idea of the slanted board keeps chickens from getting up there and roosting. They can't stand because the slant is such a high pitch. That keeps them from roosting up there at night, because you really want your hens and all your chickens roosting on the roost, because you don't want the top of your nest, filled with poop, which it will invariably over a period of time. So you can put tin up there if you got an oblong piece of tin or metal roofing or something, a panel, just anything that you can put up there to keep the chickens from standing on top of it will work. Now, you could put your unit of chicken nest directly on the ground if you wanted to, but it's going to, over a period of time, with all the manure that builds up, and chickens, they produce a lot, believe it or not, and over a period of time, the floor of your chicken house is going to rise, and it could rise higher than the nest is. Plus, I don't like bending over any further than I have to, especially if I'm gathering eggs. So I like to elevate that nest, but I don't want to elevate it higher than the roost, because chickens want to go to the highest spot to roost. And if the nest is higher than the roost, they're generally going to want to roost inside the nest. So I like to keep it at least below the roost level. I have found that if my hen house starts to get overcrowded, the newer chicks, or the pullets that come in, there's a pecking order, as you probably have figured out, and those newer chicks are a little bit nervous about roosting with the other chicks until they get some age to them, and they tend to want to roost in that nest. And so for a period of time, I'll go out and pull them out of the nest and put them on the roost just to get them forming that habit. Chickens are they're creatures of habit. Now, as far as getting in the nest is concerned, some chickens can they're agile. They can just fly up to that half partition and kind of hold on to it and flap their wings until they can crawl inside. But I like to give them a little perch that extends out from the nest so that they can fly up on the perch, and then there's no problem just stepping on into the nest. It makes it real easy for them. But again, you don't want that perch higher than the roost, or they're going to be spending the night there on that perch. You can make your perch out of I just use little sapling trees about that big around. If you don't have that access to that, you can just take some 2x4s. A 2x2, it'll start to bend after a while because chickens are pretty heavy. You can turn a 2x4, edgewise, and install it that way. And that, if you want to, bring it in the shop and take a draw knife or a plane and chamfer down the edges so that it's a little more, it's not square and it's not awkward to their feet. That'll help. It'll make it comfortable for them. They'll love you for it. So when you're finished with the nest, you're ready to fill it with straw. And as I mentioned earlier, I like using pine straw because when you use nice, clean hay, chickens will eat the hay, which is fine. It's good for them to eat hay. Let them have access to as much hay as they want, but they're going to eat all the hay in the nest, and pretty soon you're going to have to be adding it to the nest. So add the hay for them to eat somewhere else, and put pine straw in the nest, and they don't like to eat pine straw, and it'll still be there. Now, another viewer named Roman, he asked this: as far as nesting boxes go, do you usually build the kind that are built on the side of the coop, or do you just build shelving on the inside? Well, as Roman suggests, you can. I have seen folks, even traditionally, build nest on the outside of a chicken house. Now, if they've got a chicken yard, obviously that nest is going to be on the wall that's inside the chicken yard. Usually, a lot of times, chicken houses, the chicken yard is built attached to the chicken house so that you can go in the chicken house without actually having to go in the chicken yard, because in wintertime or in a rainy season, that chicken yard is going to be slick. You're going to fall down. It could be muddy because the chickens will have eaten all the grass. So it's nice to have the chicken house on the edge of the chicken yard. But as Roman suggests, yes, some people did build the nest on the outside, which is not a problem if you don't have a chicken yard at all. You let them out during the day, and they learn to, hopefully, if you put some golf balls up there or get them started with an egg or two so that they can figure out where to lay, and they'll lay in those outside boxes. But if you put the box on the outside of the building within the chicken yard, then every time you go to gather eggs, you're going to have to go into the chicken yard, which, as I said, could be muddy or messy depending on how wet it is outside. And so what I have found is a better situation, and I did this in my chicken house in Tennessee. I had the unit of nest against a wall, which was an exterior wall, which it basically is a wall that you can access from the outside without having to go in the chicken yard itself. And on that wall directly where the nest were, I cut an oblong hole out of the chicken house wall itself. And to that hole, I attached a plank which covered the hole but was hinged so that when you opened it, it would just lay down. And you have easy access to gather the eggs without even going into the chicken house or the chicken yard, which is really nice if you're in a hurry and you're making an omelet and I just need an egg, and you run outside and you can grab an egg and run back to the kitchen without having to actually go into the chicken house or chicken yard. It makes your life a whole lot simpler. And you can, for the hinge, you can use obviously store-bought hinges, or you can even just use pieces of thick pieces of rubber, an old tire or something, just anything that allow that panel to drop, and then have a hook on top that you can hook the panel when you're through and close it back up so that the chickens don't get out. Well, Roman and Captain Howard, I hope that answers your question. If you would like to see more of my videos on chickens, check out my chicken playlist. Check out the chicken playlist. Or you can watch my series on building a log chicken house, which I hope you'll enjoy. I think there's one video on how I build the nest along with some other things in it. You'll probably want to check that out. I'll have all that in the links below. If you've got a question that's related to chickens, chicken houses, or nest, or anything of a farmical nature, leave it in the comment section below. If I like it, we'll include it in a future episode of the Farmhand's Companion Question and Answer Show. Until next time, I'm Paul Mack, and I will talk at you later. Neil Wright, overalls always right up when I wear them. Maybe roundhouse won't be so binding. Oh no, we can't have that. Hey man, loosen up them straps a little. Loosen up them straps. Let them, we can't have that.